Welcome back, everybody. This is After the Ashes. I'm Steve, you're one of your hosts here, and I'm here with Shauna, your other. And I guess we were trying to figure out what the title of this episode was going to be, but I guess the only thing to say is welcome back.
It's welcome back, or maybe it should be Weeee're Baaaack.
Well, maybe that's only the electeds that feel that way.
So we were not, for all of you dear listeners, we, as you know, had planned to take almost a month off because we needed a little break, a little hiatus. And then by last week, I mean, between Christmas and New Year, Steve and I were like, holy shit, there's so much going on. We got to talk. And then, sorry, there's some very loud sirens outside. And
it's all right.
I would
Either
say
they
that
wash or they don't.
I was going to say that we are triggered by this, except how could we be? Because there were no
it's
sirens
only
for
January 8th, the day after.
Oh my. This episode's going to be like that, folks. So we had planned to take this long break, but we realized, oh my gosh, we have so much to talk about. And then by last week with the New Year's events and everything coming on around the anniversary and so many media pieces hitting and so many news bites coming and news stories hitting and developments, we were like, holy smokes, we gotta get in the studio. So we are kind of jamming it in today. And this will be kind of part one. I think that our next episode, this is episode 25. Episode 26 will be a little bit of a part two for this before we get into a regular cadence next week. So,
well, my readers will know that sometimes I make promises not to do something and then I end up doing it. I mean, the 5 readers that are out there.
There's more than 5 readers.
All right, 6. But anyway, this is not unusual for me. So welcome to the club, Jonna.
Well, I'm in it. We're all in it.
Well, it's been crazy. Like, there's been so much happening.
It's hard, even for Steve and I, it's hard to keep up. Steve and I are like texting every day at this point with like, did you see this? Did you see this? Did you see this? Like, it's just like, oh my gosh, someone quickly take notes because there's so much happening. Even for us, it's been
it's been
a project to keep up.
And it's been both at the macro level where, the media is picking up a lot of this now and they are starting really to, how did Steve Lopez put it? Like questions like daggers hanging over the heads of public officials.
Yes. Gosh, that was a really great piece that he did.
And what a great quote. I mean, that's a fantastic one, because they always say the electeds like to walk between the raindrops. So now if the daggers are going to be coming, that'll be fun to see how they try to sidestep those.
Exactly. How are you going to dodge it?
But, the Times has really picked it up. And yes, we've had national media coming in and giving, like the Economist piece that you were everything that you're quoted in. I mean, you're like the stalwart quote these days.
You can count on me for a good quote. My Economist quote was in response to.
Oh, you dropped an F-bomb.
And it was funny. I had spent a couple of solid hours in front of Highlight Coffee. Love you, Frank Kim, with the reporter for the Economist. And we covered myriad topics, and I, as always, was giving her a laundry list of additional contacts that she needed to reach out to and speak with various voices in the community. And I had made this one statement, and I even laughed and joked, said, "Don't feel compelled to quote me like that. I don't need to have a potty mouth all the time." And then I read the Economist story, and I'm quoted in response to some of Gavin Newsom's legislation and stories and quotes coming out of the governor's office. I'm quoted saying, "We need a fucking plan. Hope is not a strategy. Where's the fucking plan?"
And I mean, you're once again right on. I mean, what's crazy is that there's been so much happening. I'm trying to find that quote from the LA Times yesterday that you pulled. That came from Rebecca Ellis's.
Oh yeah, Rebecca.
Piece.
So I mean, for those who are not, it's okay. For those who we should be a little more prepared. We're a little by the seat of the pants today.
Last year, the focus was on survival, finding temporary places to live, clearing lots, deciding whether to stay or go, while holding government officials accountable. This year will be about building up again, as well as the political reckoning.
It is.
And
this year is the political reckoning.
If this is truly where our media is about to go, look out, because this is not 2022. As I wrote in that piece over the holidays, where I made the argument that I think that a lot of the root causes of where we are today was the 2022 election and the aftermath of the LA City Council tape scandal, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like the media is not going to let that go. So, but let's go back. Let's back up a little bit. You, Shauna, have been extraordinarily busy this year. You were at our Fair Rose Parade.
Well, I mean,
among others.
Among many others. I mean, I was there as witness, I suppose you would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we can jump into some of that before we really fully go into our media roundup and recap that Steve was touching on. You know, with the new year, the Altadena for Accountability Coalition, you know, stepped up some of its actions, which, you know, before getting into that, I'll set this up by saying that, you know, I saw Catherine Barger at grocery outlet at our commemorative event last night.
But that's topic 3.
It is topic 3, but I'm gonna.
You told me not to bounce around.
I did. I was like, Steve, follow the order. But since Steve just jumped into the media roundup, which was talking,
I did not go to the media roundup. I just setting up the accountability through utilizing the beginning of the media roundup. We haven't even started on the media roundup.
I too am just setting this up, and
Okay,
then we'll bring it back around.
Fine.
So.
And I
you
get
know,
accused of being
I saw Barger, and you know, it's like I'm sure everyone thinks that like we just like have it out for these people. We don't. Like I, you know, understand how difficult her job is. As I've said in the past, I don't think it should exist. I think that it's an impossible task that she has been charged with. And in many respects, I have tremendous respect for her, and in many respects, I also understand that she's very simply a politician being a politician. It's kind of like expecting the zebra not to have stripes or the lion not to kill. But
I think it's more like the scorpion and the frog story.
Oof, yeah, that is a good one. That's a good analogy for it. So with that, you know, I was wearing, you know, one of our red shirts, the Altadena for Accountability Coalition shirt, which everyone in the coalition who was there last night was wearing, and a number of volunteers who joined us in the community, people from my beautiful Altadena community, people from the community at large, people, friends and family, you know, in the Altadena community who were there and who, you know, really stand behind this call for an independent investigation into what happened with the fire response here. And, you know, her statement to me, she saw the shirt and she immediately, you know, approached me and said, you know, I agree with you. I agree with you. We need an investigation. I support that. And, you know, to hear that, it's like, okay, that's great, but that rings hollow if you're not actually going to compel it and make it happen. Because, you know, what I said to her when she kind of, it was like, how, you know, what's going on and how are you? And I was like, you know, I shouldn't have to do this. Like, I'll sum it up really quickly.
You shouldn't have to be there. Yeah.
I shouldn't have to do any of this. But at the 1 year mark, no one, not me, not the rest of this coalition at large, not all of these other community leaders, not all of our neighbors who were out there wearing shirts or wearing red, even Shay Shay Yancey, who delivered the most beautiful poem last night at that grocery outlet official commemorative event. I saw her after, and she gave me a big hug and tugged on her scarf and said, I'm wearing a red scarf for you. Like, this is in solidarity with everyone asking for this investigation. So, you know, that again, that's it. How are we at the 1 year mark asking for the most basic things still, to the point that we now have to escalate to this point? Like, this is not a radical ask. This isn't some wild expectation. This isn't like, oh my gosh, we're these radical protesters. We're not even protesters. We're just community members saying, hey, we're begging for this. We desperately need this. So I thought it was very interesting to see Barger yesterday at another press conference, and then at last night's official event, you know, up there saying, hey, let me address the elephant in the room. You know, I support this investigation. But she stopped short of saying Rob Bonta. And, you know, she
which investigation?
An independent investigation with subpoena power into all the failures. And as you and I know.
But what does that mean?
Correct. No one really wants that, because it's going to uncover things that, you know, aren't going to be flattering for anybody.
Well, look, I think, you know, I don't want to jump ahead to
I think we've, let's give up. And listeners, thanks for bearing with us. The 3 topics today are our media roundup, everything that's happened at the new year, the anniversary events, and kind of where we go from here. And it's going to set up the next episode as we talk about policy and, you know, what's working, what's not, and the political reckoning that is looming. So now I've got everybody braced for what is coming so they can make sense of our nonlinear format today.
The ADHD format. No,
it's okay.
What I was going to say was, if you look at, you know, at the post that I did today, a friend of ours in Washington always loves to say, look at the scoreboard. Don't lose the forest for the trees. Look at the scoreboard. And when it comes to the words that are said, the words that are coming from supervisors or governors or other electeds, the proof is in the pudding, and that's the scoreboard. And the scoreboard that we're seeing, based upon the report after report after report after report of failure after failure after failure after failure, and a lack of accountability and a lack of ability to fix those problems, going all the way back to 2018, and that the fire problems that we're having today, going back to pointing fingers at different people or different groups, and inevitably back to Trump. You know, Trump is literally the medieval equivalent of the devil. If there's anything that's wrong, it's Trump. Instead of saying, wait a minute, maybe we're not perfect. I'm not defending Trump.
Yep.
But I'm also saying you can't just reflexively say, it's Trump. I don't have anything to do with this. Like, that's got to stop too. And that's been the go-to play. Like, that was the governor's line today in the State of the State. You know, he sounded very good, standing up there, pointing his finger with that snarl look on his face. And it got to stop it. And we need our disaster money, essentially. And, you know, I guess I go back to the scoreboard, and, you know, the words you're hearing from the electeds is one thing. But like you're saying, like Altadena for Accountability is saying, we want answers. We don't want words anymore.
And instead of just lip service, we also want things that are actionable. You know, I mean, I raised this, you know, we really are going to jump around a bit. So yesterday, one of the things I was doing for the 1-year anniversary is I was invited to join the Palisades at their rally. And it was kind of, you know, so man, Jeremy Padower and Miriam, I believe her last name is Engel. And Miriam, if I just butchered your name, I apologize. My brain is a little jumbled in the last few days. But
she's going to blame perimenopause the way that our politicians blame Trump.
I've also been a little tired. But this has been a long, heavy week for all of us.
Indeed. I'm just messing with you.
He is. But and his wife will handle him later, so I'm not worried. So anyhow, you know, I was invited to come speak at their They Let Us Burn rally. And, you know, one of the things that I had shared in my speech, and I'm going to share my speech on my Substack this week, maybe today actually, because I think that the points made that I made were really important for everyone to hear, but also because of the fact that those points were reiterated by people in that community, which is why I was there in the first place, you know, as a representative of Altadena, kind of standing in solidarity with our neighbors to the west, because while their community is different, their demographics are different, and some of their experience is different, a lot of their challenges, frustrations, and demands are very similar to ours, because the bottom line is, you know, the issues that allowed their town to be destroyed by fire are the same that allowed our town to be destroyed by fire. And so we are all seeking the same answers. And so, you know, one of the things I just kept hammering, and they were too, so were the organizers that They Let Us Burn, was the fact that this is not a partisan issue. You know, it's just not. Like, as much as some armchair commentators would like it to be that, as much as some of our electeds would like it to be that, you know, as much as it's an effective soundbite for a governor who wants to be president, you know.
Well, to cover up the failures that he made, and we'll get into that in the next one.
Yep.
Because there's a whole backstory there.
That's right. But, you know, ultimately, you know, this is just, again, as we keep discussing, it's a failure of leadership and and the result of bad policy, old infrastructure, poor management of resources and funds. Like,
it's,
you know, there's so many
failure. As we've been saying for months
now.
This was humans. It was compound. How did I put it? The decisions that were made, the failures that have happened are the Edison.
Yes.
Trump is merely the wins.
Yeah. So I'm gonna get. It's true. I'm gonna get back to, you know, to go back on this. You know, one of the points I made in my speech, and that I was really fascinated to hear two other speakers on that stage in the Palisades make, was the fact that after the 2018 fire, the Woolsey fire in Malibu, which was, you know, their very close neighbor, that following that, you know, they had a number of investigations, reports, County Board of Supervisor motions passed, all of these things to implement all of these changes that were highlighted in these reports and investigations, and that, you know, things to ensure this didn't happen again. None of those things were implemented, because had they been,
there were too many other priorities.
Would be there, we would be there, right? So again, this comes down to it being just lip service, and this is why so many continue to ask for this truly independent investigation with subpoena power so that all the data included is actually complete, because it is not with the reports and investigations that we have seen so far. You know, we have the UL report, we have the
What's
audit.
the UL report?
That is the one done by, oh my gosh, it's I can't remember their other, is it FSRI? Their other acronym. So that's the quote unquote independent that's been happening following the McChrystal report.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, that is going to be another layer, but it's just another layer. It's not still a full accounting, and it is still not actionable. It still does not carry subpoena power, and it doesn't carry the ability for any of the things of the findings to actually be made actionable. And this is what, you know, the difference is. And I say this because there are some people in the community who unfortunately have bad information and are really, you know, bent on sharing talking points that, you know, that we're wrong and we don't know what we're talking about, when in fact
Which community?
They don't know what they're talking about.
Okay.
So,
well,
you know, so I think it's important that we just keep talking about what is real. You know, there's only one body in our state that has the power to do that, and it's our Attorney General, including digging into whether or not there are civil rights, issues and violations involved here. You know, we're not going to have answers to those questions without a true independent investigation.
That's not going to go well with the governor who's standing up there talking about this is an America for all and not just for single groups, like he was saying today in his State of the State.
Right, which is not the case, especially when he was too fearful to show up at any of these events.
Well, that's the next one.
I know, and we're going to get into that in the next episode. But, that really struck me yesterday as I was standing there. You know, as they say, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. But I mean, you know, when you leave a vacuum, when the Democratic leadership feels so attacked, rightfully so, because they blew it, so attacked by their own party.
Not only blew it, they keep blowing it.
They just continue to blow it, right? This just keeps happening. That you have people, even like me, you know, I'm as left as they come.
Yep.
Even though I was accused of being a Trumper on my Substack because I was critical, you know, because God forbid any of us speak out against our own. Because if you've heard me say on this show before, you know, with the issues in our reality in this state, like, we are blue through and through. So when things go wrong, the call's coming from inside the house, folks, and we have to talk about that because we have to do better. But anyhow, I really want to come back to this point, which was that, you know, multiple people, including myself, raised the fact that the Woolsey Fire had these investigations and nothing was ever done because they have no teeth. And that is the same thing that is happening to us right now. There was one survivor who got up there in the Palisades and spoke about how he and his family and his young children lost their dream home in Malibu that was like a miracle that they got in this place, to the Woolsey Fire. Okay? And that 7 years later, he repeatedly gave his street address because he wanted people to look up his address in their, you know, permit system. I don't know if they also use Epic, but he was like, go look up the permit history of my address in Malibu and see how for 7 years I have done everything right, checked every box, and still have not rebuilt that house. So they have been in limbo for 7 years, living in the Palisades, where they just lost their house again.
So I have a friend, and I'm hoping we can get him on the show pretty soon, but he was saying to me the other day, the problem with the Democratic Party right now, and this goes back to the abundance agenda, is it's the party of no. It's a party of there's always a reason why they can't do something. And I could tell you that this is indicative not only here in California, but also in Washington. And, you know, sometimes you got to say yes, and not just to your favorite constituents.
Yep.
Sometimes you just have to govern for the sake of governing. And unfortunately, we're fighting that fight. But that's another issue. Again, I'll go back to that quote from the Times this morning. This year will be about building up again as well as political reckoning.
Yeah.
And I think that's a theme that we need to keep weaving into all of this, is that whether it's 2018, whether it's 2022, whatever it is, we've had this pattern. This is not a one-off thing. This is something that's been built. The train wreck has been going very slow, or the bankruptcy has gone very slow, and now it's going very fast.
Yep.
And the answers you're getting, the responses we're seeing, and the lack of any substantive change is demonstrative of broader problems. We just don't have the leaders that understand this stuff, and we'll get into that later. But anyways, Shauna.
Or if the leaders do understand, they're
so cynical.
Yeah, because of the current construct, the current power structure, they cannot or will not speak to or do anything about it. It's like, again, Barger last night at this commemorative event, not being comfortable and stopping just short of saying what needs to be said. Because, she's a very, very smart political animal, which is the part, that I do have a lot of respect for.
Yeah.
And she knows how to
Game recognizes game.
That's right. She knows how to read the room. She knows when to flip the switch. We saw this after the Altadena for Accountability press conference in September, on the same day that the Board of Supervisors had the McChrystal team in to release the McChrystal report.
But they couldn't have been so fucking clueless as they were on that day.
Except they were. And they very quickly.
I guess somebody forgot to push a button. Oops.
I know. But she and Horvath both flipped in a matter of hours their narrative from full support of this report and how great it was to it's incomplete. Why is it missing all these things? We owe our constituents better.
Well, because they took shit from their constituents. At least they responded.
Yeah, exactly. And really flipped that. And again, it was the same thing now as we heard, including, your boy John, Hermedian.
He's my boy Blue.
We're old again. It's so fucked up that I have to say we're old, because if you know that movie reference, apparently you're old, because also I just rewatched that and I was like, you know what?
My kids love it.
Oh, I'm glad your kids love it. You shouldn't have said it out loud. No. But I'm like, oh my gosh, like this didn't age well. There's so much about this that is actually wildly offensive.
There was a lot of fast forwarding when they were watching. I was like, okay, nope.
I was like, I loved it. Now I'm like, ooh, maybe not a great look.
Still pretty funny.
It is still pretty fucking funny. But and I also, did I ever share this story that when I was in New York?
Yes.
For work? Yeah.
That's how they knew that
was the litmus. Like if I knew who Will Ferrell was, I was clearly old enough, because nobody who's young knows who Will Ferrell was. And I was like, oh my gosh. But we digress. Anyhow. It just get back to just this point that, there has to be answers. This is not going to go away. This isn't going to get quieter. It isn't going to slow down. I'm going to bring it back to the top of the episode. We're talking about, the holidays, which were, we talked about this before in our last episodes heading into the holidays. It's a really fraught time, for many, really difficult time for many.
There were a lot of heavy hearts.
Yeah. The mental health toll is real. I mean, I have to be reminded from time to time that, I too have a PTSD and what do they call it? I can't remember what they call the disorder, but it's like, oh my gosh, which one?
You have a disorder? I was going to say, come on.
No, but it's very specific. You probably do too. It's adjustment disorder, I believe they call it, but it's very specific to trauma victims and, having to adjust to a new reality. And we're talking about how for all of us, and this comes back to all these issues we continue discussing, there's no way to begin to heal from everything that we have been through, from all of this trauma, until you can stop the trauma from happening and then be post-trauma to actually have time to process it and heal. But we are all still actively living this every day.
Because there's no plan, there's no direction, there's no closure.
Correct. And we're all still fighting insurance, mortgage lenders, the permitting, the building, the rebuilding, the lawsuits, do I even have money to rebuild? The neighbors, who are facing loss of ALE, with the new year, who are going to be the next round of people's whose lives are set off into another layer of turmoil. It is one thing after another. People continue to be re-traumatized every day, and you can't even begin to heal until you get through that. So, it's been a really hard time, and a lot of people are just kind of trudging through it and managing in their own ways, day to day, either near or far. And I say that because so many of us have been displaced. We have so many in our beautiful Altadena community group who, talk about the fact that they've made the very difficult decision to leave and that, they're not coming back. I even saw like a pair that I knew at the Good Neighbor bar who were like, we came into town for this, but, we had to make the hard choice to sell and we can't return. Yeah. There is a lot of that. So everyone is just getting by however they can. And I think we have a lot of space and for all of that. and everyone handling this however they need to get through it. But, we went into this holiday season, we went into the new year. There were a lot of big feelings around, these floats that were, right? There was talk about the Sierra Madre float, which we spoke about a little bit.
Did you have anything to do with it? Were you involved with that in any way, shape, or form?
Well, not directly.
No, I know, but it's amazing how they directed it at you.
Oh, the hate?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, some of it, but not all of it, but some of it. Yeah, it's fascinating. Oh, you mean with the Sierra Madre float?
Yeah.
Right. So I thought it was kind of wild that there's a lot of people in the community who are they want to tar and feather me.
Spokesperson versus the people who
correct.
You're shooting the
you're shooting the messenger. The people who raised the issue around that Sierra Madre float in particular were people who worked on the float, who were also fire survivors. And, they had shared their story in our group and asked me specifically to help amplify that and if I would consider doing some media that they couldn't do. And I did that. And it was very interesting to see how quickly it was me, Shauna, has a problem with the float and Shauna is making a stink about it. And it's good grief,
As I've said to anybody, everybody knows you, Shauna.
Well, that's fine, but it's.
But that's what leadership is.
Correct.
Unfortunately, sometimes you have to be out on the front.
That's right, and take some of the
slings and arrows.
And take some of the hits for the people who can't, and I can, and I will, and I'll continue to do that.
Show up, be
show
there,
up, exactly.
Take shit
to actually lead, because leading has consequences, and speaking the truth has consequences.
Honest conversation.
Yep.
Candid conversation.
That's right. It's really tough.
Sounds like a spokesperson for the governor's office, but let's
go so as we kind of get into all of the a little bit more around that, so the coalition has kind of amplified its activities because these calls remain to be unheard. Right? We still don't have the investigation.
No.
So that activity has been stepped up. I'm sure no one missed that at the Rose Parade. A couple of incredibly brave women on that float. On the float that was the CCF float for fire survivors, that was carrying fire survivors, deployed that banner, and that was such a brave. That's the word, the best word I can use to describe it. Yeah. Such a brave act. That honestly, it's a plea. It's a cry for help. That it was very interesting when people were saying this isn't the time or place, and I was like. You clearly, number one, then what is? And number two, then you clearly don't have a great understanding of the Rose Parade, because if you have ever really if you've been following the Rose Parade for decades, as I have, and anyone who grew up in this area has, then you know that there has always been a protest component. First of all, subtly in the floats, and less subtly at the end of the parade procession, where people with banners and messages and protest signs would always follow the procession.
Action. And then
correct.
Before, renounce Satan and, give yourself
all sorts of wild stuff, right? Yeah. That has always had a place at the Rose Parade. And, part of that is what spawned the Doodah Parade, which is now very irreverent and kind of tongue-in-cheek, haha, but there's also a lot of this type of messaging too. So I thought, again, it was very interesting to see people, it's so, you're shame on you, and this isn't the time. This is absolutely the time. And the fact that you don't think that it is speaks very loudly to your ignorance on more topics than one. So I could not have been more proud to be associated with the group that was doing that.
Well,
I couldn't have been more
disruptive.
Proud.
That's the other
nope.
thing. It wasn't
like
they were making a scene like the Palestine protesters would come in and disrupt the parade. They just it was just a sign.
Very quiet and respectful, and a necessary message that I was so glad to see was amplified in so many places, in so many media outlets. Those interviews are still happening. For the people in the coalition who undertook that. And, it's important work that, bottom line, I couldn't be more proud to be supportive of, aligned with, and, working with. That it's such an incredible group of people doing that work.
Well,
and we shouldn't have to be doing that work is the point.
Well, that's the point. But, if Attorney General Bonta does decide to run for governor, which the rumors are flying around that he's going to make an announcement.
Good luck, buddy.
I think this is something it's going to be interesting when he makes.
You can't ignore it anymore.
Well, he's not going to. When he comes to Altadena, he won't be anywhere near the people who are asking this of him.
Did you see his social media post yesterday?
No, I don't. I'm not on social media.
Okay, Steve's not on social media, and I wish I weren't, but I am. And a post was shared with me from AG Rob Bonta's official account, and on the at the event of the anniversary of our fires. What he shared was a couple of images and a blurb thanking the first responders for the incredible job that they did saving our helping our communities and saving people in our communities. And I was like, holy shit, dude. How, like, is this for real? Like, is it possible that you are this
Tone
deaf, disconnected from the reality on the ground? Is that possible? Or do you just not give a shit and you're just going to say what you're going to say because these unions fund you and elect you and get you in office, which we've talked about a lot of the mutually assured destruction in our entire system and why no one can get answers or accountability for anything and why this is just an ongoing self-fulfilling prophecy because this shit is just going to keep happening so long as the hand, that feeds you is the one that beats you. I mean, like...
Oh, that's the machine and that's a subject for
it is for another episode. It is.
We will pick that up when we talk about the Milken report.
We will in the next episode. So while we're on this, the other thing that the Altadena for Accountability Coalition did, and I was part of this, was we hosted an impromptu aid station. We actually were supposed to have a booth.
I know, I saw you.
That didn't happen. I know you saw me because I saw you running.
Yeah.
And it was so great to be there on the course. We were very respectful. Had our shirts, our signs.
You did it right.
Yep. We also had coffee and muffins and bananas and oranges for everybody walking and running. And
but the first half mile, you're not ready.
I know you're not. You and I both know it, but we were not where we had planned to be. But where we were was on a neighbor's private lot where we were not disruptive, where we were, could not be removed.
You did it classy.
Correct. We do that. We try to keep it classy, and
we're
very,
There's another old movie.
It's a Will Ferrell kind of day, so we were very respectful in all that. But anyhow, I wanted to share that because it was so interesting to me how positive the response was to our message. So positive. We got so many people fist pumping in the air, high fiving. All of this, like we were just out there, being positive, like go Altadena, Altadena strong, Altadena forever. We love you, Altadena, because we do, and that's real. And but it was so great to see people taking flyers, taking stickers. I think that the team had printed 500 or so, and we ran out of virtually all of them.
Good.
Like we had to save a few. The end, it was pouring rain. We were soaked. I was out there with you getting soaked.
Yeah.
But it was just
I got this cold from it.
So great that I hopefully will not leave with today. That
you're gonna be fine.
Anyhow, it's just so great to see our people, see our community, see so many people standing together. Same again at last night's grocery outlet event. And I'll close that topic by saying that one of the people in our community who I love, she was part of a gluten-free cookie exchange with us in Altadena for years. She has been, a proud supporter of this ask for accountability, which, most in our community are. But she wanted to wear the shirt yesterday. And she sent me a message this morning. It was like, Shauna, here's proof I was there yesterday, and it is a photo on Barger's official account of her in front of the Altadena mural in the red Altadena for Accountability shirt. That kind of said it all. So with that, I think...
so we've taken everybody through...
We have. Let's talk about the
drill
media.
Of how fast we can go.
Let's, the other thing, so with all of those events, the one we didn't talk about, there's also the concert for Altadena last night.
Yep.
That was Dawes, Mandy Moore's husband, band doing, that, organizing that.
Yep.
And John C. Reilly was on there. John, for those who don't know, John C. Reilly, actor.
It's the Step Brothers.
Altadena resident, another one, Altadena resident. I don't think his home burn down? I think he may have a standing damage home, but I can't recall.
Yeah, he's big with Waldorf.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Well, I think the running joke last night was that it was like half the Waldorf parents were performing last night.
Probably.
But
that sounds about right.
That it was really quite, and some of my friends were performing last night. But that it was a really beautiful concert. It was really well done. But good. John C. Reilly got on stage and had some very choice words for SCE that some of which I shared in the beautiful Altadena Instagram stories. I highly suggest finding it. And some less than flattering commentary about the town council, and I will leave it at that. You can go find it, but it's very amusing. It was very John C. Reilly, just keeping it real. Was not mad at it.
Indeed.
So we were going to start with we usually start with our media roundout. We did a little bit of it.
Like good media people, we buried the lead.
We did, and we kept you. We sucked you in. So now let's talk about the 1 year anniversary slew of media stories. I mean, the big ones were LA Times, who had their big piece that I was surprised to be quoted in, but they quoted My
You were
one,
the only quote, weren't you?
I was the only quote in that one. I can't remember my quote, but
It was pulled from your.
It was from my Substack. I also
Your
wrote,
Substack was a nice Substack. It was a very good encapsulation of the past year.
Thanks, Steve. Like
Well, game recognizes game.
I struggled with
You probably have way more Substack subscribers than I do.
I am losing them too. I had an angry note, in fact, with one unsubscription that I came for beautiful Altadena, but not this negativity. And I was like, wow, there's a quote in that Substack that was for you. And it's, the gist of the quote is that, if you find, if you have problems with what I'm saying or the tone of what I'm saying, and you perceive that as being negative or hostile or anything else, that says a lot more about your receptivity to hearing honest truth and how we all feel about hearing honest, discourse than it does about my tone.
Yeah, but that's indicative of our society today.
I know it is. I was going to say I wondered if it was the one guy I saw at the Altadena Forever run, because there was literally one person, and it wasn't like sheriff, it wasn't fire, all of whom were really supportive in a lot of ways privately. And I was so happy to see a lot of the deputies I knew and our former LASD Altadena captain, Jabari Williams. Actually, I've seen Jabari a couple times now in the last few days, and that's been really nice. I've always really liked Jabari. But anyhow, and I actually saw some of our deputies last night, off duty, enjoying a drink at the Good Neighbor Bar.
Good.
And had a good chat with a few of them. So anyhow, these are not all bad guys, and I don't think anyone feels that way, even remotely.
We're not talking about the day-to-day.
I know, but I feel like so many people attach to that and create this false narrative that we're anti this and anti that, and it's like, no, guys, we just want real answers.
They're following orders.
Correct. And I had this conversation with some of our guys last night where it's like, they were as screwed as we were.
Yeah.
Like the leadership didn't do them any favors either.
No, they were the ones having to go. Oh, we'll go into that, but I remember driving over West of Lake on that morning, and I remember going through that stuff, and that was scary.
It was bad in every way. But anyhow, to go back, I on my Substack, I did have some good quotes in there about all of this. One of which landed in that LA Times piece. And I was joking. It's like, it took me 6 months to write that. I've been so consumed with the social media and coalition and running our day-to-day groups and, all of that and other things that we've been doing, representing out the community, that it's been hard for me to sit down and have time to really write Substack. And, but I did that and found time for that. And it was good to get it out on paper. And it informed, a number of media stories and quotes. And I was glad, because it was just, again, was some of it justifiably critical? Yeah, because it needs to be. But it's not about being negative. It's not about just being on the attack. It's also like, hey, let's put this investigation issue to bed so that we can move forward and actually get on with the real tasks at hand, which are around policy that we'll get into in the next episode, but also, solutions, again, which we're going to talk about in the next episode too, that we have the technology, guys. We have the ways to do this.
We've had it.
We have had it. So let's do it. Why aren't we doing it so that we can, go forward? So there was a lot of hope in there as well, because I think there are still many reasons for all of us to be hopeful and to, in the ways that we can, remain optimistic while also, not letting anyone off the hook. So
I guess that's an interesting segue, because one of the media things we didn't have on this list here, but yesterday, you and I were on KCRW.
Yeah.
We were on Press Play.
Yep. Which is their political show.
Yeah. And
with Madeline.
Yeah. Which was an
really
honor.
good.
It was an honor.
Yeah. I was, wow. When we got that call from the producer to do that, and I have to shout out a big thanks to my friend, you know who you are, at KCRW, who months ago, because we know each other from the food world, because I had a long time in hospitality PR, that she, when this all kind of was breaking last year, she was like, I need to connect you with some producers over here, who are not obviously food, because this is not a food conversation.
No.
But, and that was how that connection happened. And we had been on the show. I was on the show previously.
I was not.
I was too, and it was one of those, it was when it was in September when that press conference hit. But it was really an honor to be asked to come back, and especially to be given so much airtime we were a quarter of an hour long fire anniversary episode, and got to make a lot of great points. If anybody's inclined, you can find that episode on the KCRW page. You can stream it. I think that our segment starts about 25 minutes in.
And Shauna did great on the Teddy Kennedy question.
We both did. We were asked point blank if we had any plans to run for office. And, I think Steve's answer was the right answer, which was,
Ask my wife first, which they cut out. So if my
Yes.
wife's listening, I did defer to you. They just didn't publish it.
It's true. And then I had he was quick to say if the call came, he would answer it. And, it doesn't have to be running for an office. It could be an appointed position. Steve is also here to be of service and is being of service and will continue to be of service.
Well,
But
same with you.
And for myself, I'd said the same thing. Is this something that I have plans to do right now? No. Is it something I would ever have imagined for myself or want for myself? No, because I know politics just as well as I know show business, having grown up in this town, and I have zero desire to take part in either because I know them so well. But
Hollywood for ugly people. That's DC.
but I do think that that's not nice.
Well, that's what they say it is. That's what they say. I mean, it's not me
Are
who
you
says
saying
it.
that we have faces for radio?
No, I'm saying that DC, the joke
I know,
is
I
that
got
it's
it, I
Hollywood.
got it.
It's
I'm
all
giving
actors
you
and
shit.
actresses. Yeah.
But anyhow, what I said there, and I will say here, is that I think that for there to be any kind of meaningful change, we are all going to have to be the change. And I really look forward to seeing
Agreed.
ballots in 2028 filled with fire survivors running for office, because I think at this point it's going to take all of us who are not career politicians, who are not in the pockets of those we are supposed to be protected from, by these electeds, to kind of to get into the game, even if I referenced
Sound democratic socialist. to me.
Yep. I, referenced, Zoran Mamdani, right, in his speech. And Steve is going to make a little bit of a face.
Mm-hmm.
He can't help himself. But, part of Mamdani's speech, and I shared this, I think, on Threads, but from my personal account, spoke to the fact that he had been told that now that he was being sworn in, now's the time to temper expectations and, to reel it in a little bit and, renegotiate your promises so that, you can only promise things that you can actually accomplish. And that his response was, I'm not going to do that, because even if I cannot be effective, even I'm going to try, and I'm not going to stop trying. And I think that is frankly where we all are as well. We can't stop trying. We have to at least try. We can't just accept our fate, that this is it, that this system is such that it is, that we are simply stuck.
No,
I refuse to
don't-
accept that.
I don't agree with that, but I also think that I'm totally a fighter in that respect. I think you
Yeah.
get that. But I
Yeah.
also believe that it's not about absolute power and dominance. You have to be you can't be an advocate. You also have to understand how to govern. And governing is very different than advocating. And that's sort of what Madeline asked us yesterday or
Yep.
the other day. She said, is it easy for you guys to sit there and,
Armchair it.
armchair quarterback or, Monday morning quarterbacking everything? And I think we both said look, yes, but we're not immune to going and trying to make the change too.
Yep.
But making change requires compromise.
That
And
it does.
sometimes it requires you dealing with people that you otherwise probably would find distasteful.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of made this joke privately with Steve, about being in the Palisades, which again, is definitely a little bit more of a Republican enclave of our city. Certainly,
You were there with Spencer Pratt announced his mayoral.
Oh well, yeah, and I don't think that anyone necessarily knew he was going to do that. But
I'm sure
surprise.
he had enough people out there that knew.
But
That guy is so scripted.
so yes, I was for a couple hours yesterday morning. I was sandwiched between Heidi Montag. Is that even how you say her name? I watch this stuff.
I don't know.
Spencer Pratt, who I didn't even realize until yesterday they're married, and our former LASD head sheriff Alex Villanueva,
Catherine Barger's favorite.
and also Steve Hilton, who I didn't know who he was either, but apparently he is
He's the leading front runner for the Republican gubernatorial candidate.
There you go, and
And
who
a Fox News person and
Yeah.
worked with David Cameron.
So
I know this because my parents watch Fox News.
I know. And so I did not know this because I don't, and it's not my universe. But Yeah, again, like the enemy of my enemy is my friend sometimes. And I was really glad that everyone was making the point that this is not partisan. It's not partisan, well, except for Spencer Pratt. But everybody else was very much.
He's partisan to himself.
Exactly. That this was not a partisan issue. It was about, getting true accountability for all of our communities and for all of these failures. But I was just thinking to myself, I'm living in the strangest fucking timeline.
Yeah.
I'm living
You're in hostile territory over there.
That too. But you know what? My speech landed really well. The organizer privately shared with me that, one of his family, I was the favorite speech of one of his family members, which I was very flattered to hear. And it was, it's just, the wind and fire don't care who you voted for, guys. And
Mother Nature.
Well, it's not just Mother Nature. It's also this failed infrastructure. It's all of this. It's all the broken bits. And, we have to find ways to cross our divides and unite. And you've heard me say this on other topics, and anybody who knows me hears me talk about this, that, as distasteful as it may seem, we've lost a big chunk of the country to this insanity because we have allowed ourselves, by the powers that be, by the Trumps of the world, and to some degree our party as well, all of the social media,
the Democrats did it too. They're all about segmenting.
Correct, because as long as we are divided and not united, they can make it about all of us and not about them. Because the minute everyone actually starts having conversations and starts talking and starts realizing that they agree more than they disagree, those folks at the top are in deep trouble. Okay, this is when you get into coup territory, and people get very much having their Marie Antoinette their moment, right?
Here's the revolutionist.
Well, it's true, and I think that is a really powerful statement, and that is why when given the opportunity to go and speak in those circles, I will always do it. Unlike Newsom and Bass and our other electeds who were terrified to show up, and this is going to bring it full circle to what I was kind of jumping into earlier in this segment and didn't finish the thought, which was that a lot of when you leave this, when you don't show up, when you don't have accountability, when you don't come to kind of face the music and speak to how you're going to fix things to correct and regain trust, you leave a vacuum, and really scary shit happens in that vacuum, like Trump. And
who he was railing on today.
Yep. And then this is where we are. Those electeds, every single one of them should have been at every one of these events, and not just the events that are friendly and warm and fuzzy with the what I call, the
curated.
Correct, where we have certain people in the community who have just really leaned into that, and they are just part of the machine now themselves, and that includes some of our philanthropy that we're going to talk about in the next episode. But the bottom line is we have kind of been painted now as this counter movement, and it shouldn't be that. We're actually the community. We speak for the actual community, the people who are here, who are living this, the fire survivors. And as the longer we continue to try and silence those voices and marginalize them and target them and single them out and discredit them. And, yesterday's fire survivor organizer in the Palisades had put 40 grand of his own money out to properly run that rally, secure the permits, do the whole thing. And Karen Bass came out and called him a disaster profiteer.
Well, it's interesting when you look at the events that are put on and the difference between what's going on in the Palisades and what's going on here, and how much orchestration goes on for some of these events. Yep. And it's hard for people to understand, to peel back the onion. And if we get to it in the next episode, great. If we don't, we'll pick it up on Tuesday. But this is definitely... the readers of my Substack know this is something I've been discussing a lot more recently. I crossed the Rubicon, as it was said a couple days ago. And, anyway, having said all that, let's wrap this up so that our listeners can get a break
and get on to the next episode when you're ready.
I'm
so
ready.
We're going to do our usual small biz shout out, but I'm going to make this one a little bit different and direct you to my Substack notes. So for those who aren't on Substack, you don't have to have the Substack app to follow our notes. I don't think you ever write in notes, but I do because I don't.
Again, social media.
Post daily like Steve does. I write in a little bit more long form when there's things to talk about.
Mine's long form.
I was trying to be flattering, Steve.
No, you're not.
Trying to let you off the hook a little.
No.
But I do share a lot of daily things in in other spheres. So our social media, our Instagram at Beautiful Altadena. We share hundreds of critical items every month in our stories. And those stories are also on our public Facebook page, also Beautiful Altadena. So I highly recommend people follow those, even if they don't follow much else, because it's just like a trove of information of events, resources, grants, passages, poetry, art shows. It's really good stuff. So get in there. But I also post to Notes. And one of the things that I posted to Notes this week is some commentary that we are asked often in our Beautiful Altadena group, like what food businesses can I support, what restaurants? And I feel like we have a handful that everybody knows: Prime Pizza, Betsy, Maya Thai, Fair Oaks Burger, right? Because those are the things that, we're talking about a lot. But we have so many other small food businesses, small food markets. We have also, cottage food businesses who don't get the love and the accolades that all the others do. So I made a comprehensive list of everything from restaurants, brick and mortar restaurants, to markets, wine shops, trucks, stands, pop-ups, cottage food businesses, and then a separate list of those who are not specifically in Altadena, but who are Altadena owned and fire impacted. So people know, who they can go support. If you want to spend your dollars supporting Altadena small business because they really need you, there's also a coffee and treat section.
We were at the cookie store, the cookie
Altadena
shop.
Cookie Co.
Cookie Co.
Yeah,
yesterday.
they do such. I love them.
And Kate went in and it was like,
They also
it was at
do-
least 30 minutes.
They
before
don't
she
have
got in
gluten free every day, but when they do, I'm so into it. They have the best stuff, and also their designs are great, and they do really funny shit. I love them. But so then anyhow, for our small biz shout out, I just want to focus and highlight those all of the gamut of food businesses, and you can go find that comprehensive list on our Substack. So
and you don't have to advertise with Shauna to get on that list.
No,
I'm teasing.
haha, but no, absolutely not. Anyhow, I'm not even. I was going to share a story, but I'm not going to because we're going to wrap it up.
We got to wrap it up.
We're going to wrap it up. So with that, we will see you in episode 26. You know where to find us. Steve and I are both on Substack.
Shauna's now writing again on Substack.
I know.
So
Watch
it's at
out,
Beautiful
world.
Altadena, and I'm at the Alta Policy Wonk.
And we also kind of have. I'm going to direct people to Altadena Water Wars if you're not. This is not a topic for today or even for the next episode.
Probably Tuesday.
Yeah, I think it's next week. We're going to talk about this next week.
I mean, maybe we'll find out who Mr. Giddis is too.
I know, Chinatown in the foothills.
I don't know where you got that one from.
I don't either, Steve Sachs. Okay.
At least someone was reading back in April.
I know.
All right.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. Thanks for sticking it out with us as always. And we'll talk to you next time.
All right. Take care.